3-year-old Lily Sanders huddled in her closet, heart pounding as strange footsteps echoed through her home. Through a crack in the door, she watched a masked man stuff her mother's jewelry into his pockets. The stranger's breathing was heavy, his movements quick and deliberate as he ransacked the bedroom she shared with her stuffed animals and picture books. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, masking the sound of her frightened whimpers. It had been a normal Tuesday afternoon in Massachusetts. Jennifer Sanders had been preparing dinner, chopping vegetables for Lily's favorite soup, when she heard a crash from the back patio door. The intruder had moved quickly, shoving Jennifer aside when she confronted him, causing her to hit her head against the kitchen counter. By the time she regained consciousness and called 911, the man had already moved upstairs where Lily was playing. Officer was first on the scene, followed closely by Detective Maria. They found Jennifer frantic, blood trickling from a small cut on her forehead. "My daughter, she's upstairs," she had gasped, clutching the detective's arm. The officers drew their weapons, moving cautiously up the carpeted stairs, but the intruder had already fled through Lily's bedroom window, leaving muddy boot prints on the white carpet and the pink curtains billowing in the storm wind. It took 20 minutes to find Lily. Detective discovered her tucked behind winter coats in her closet, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant named Blue. The child's eyes were wide with terror, her small body trembling uncontrollably. When reached for her, Lily didn't resist being picked up, but she didn't respond either. Her gaze seemed fixed on something no one else could see. "Hey, sweetheart, you're safe now," had whispered, but Lily remained rigid in her arms. The ambulance took both mother and daughter to General, where doctors examined Lily and found no physical injuries. The psychological damage, however, was immediately apparent. No matter how gently the nurses or her mother spoke to her, Lily wouldn't, or couldn't, respond. Mark Sanders arrived at the hospital directly from his business trip to Boston, his face ashen with worry. "Has she said anything at all about what happened?" he asked the attending physician doctor, who could only shake her head. "Your daughter has experienced a significant trauma," doctor explained. "Sometimes children retreat into themselves as a protective measure. We're recommending immediate consultation with a child psychologist." The police investigation moved quickly. Security camera footage from a neighbor's doorbell captured a partial image of the suspect fleeing the Sanders property. Detective recognized him immediately: Tyler Morin, a 28-year-old with 2 prior arrests for breaking and entering. His distinct tattoo of a snake on his neck was visible even in the grainy footage. Within 48 hours, police had him in custody, finding Jennifer's wedding ring and several other stolen items in his apartment. But the case wasn't as straightforward as the police had hoped. The district attorney needed more evidence to secure a conviction. "Without an eyewitness testimony, we're working with circumstantial evidence," District Attorney Caroline told the Sanders during a meeting in her office a week after the break-in. "The defense will claim someone else could have taken your belongings and sold them to Morin." "But our daughter saw him," Mark protested. "She was there." "And if she could tell us what she saw, that would change everything," replied gently, glancing at Lily, who sat in a corner of the office, methodically coloring a picture with dark blues and blacks, her face expressionless. For weeks afterward, Lily communicated only through nods, head shakes, and increasingly disturbing drawings, shadowy figures lurking in doorways, dark scribbles that filled entire pages. Child psychologist Dr. Winters tried various therapeutic approaches: play therapy, art therapy, even introducing Lily to other children who had experienced trauma. Nothing broke through the wall Lily had built around herself. At home, her parents tried to maintain normalcy, though they took turns sleeping in Lily's room, as nightmares would wake her screaming, the only sound she made, several times each night. The once bubbly child who had sung made-up songs about butterflies and told elaborate stories about her stuffed animals had vanished, replaced by a silent shadow who startled at sudden movements and loud noises. By the 1-month mark after the break-in, The Sanders family pediatrician suggested medication to help with Lily's anxiety symptoms. Jennifer resisted, hoping they could find another way to help their daughter heal. Mark had installed an advanced security system, hoping it would help Lily feel safer, but she still checked closets and under the bed multiple times before sleeping. As the preliminary hearing date approached, Detective noted in her final report, "Child witness present but unresponsive, unable to provide verbal testimony regarding the events of May 14th. Without Lily's testimony, prosecutors worried the case against suspect Tyler Morin might not be strong enough to proceed to trial, potentially allowing a dangerous criminal to walk free and leaving a little girl trapped in her silent world of fear." Officer James hadn't always believed in therapy dogs. A decade on the K-9 unit had taught him police dogs were for tracking criminals, not healing hearts. At 43, with salt and pepper hair cropped military short and a perpetual furrow between his brows, had a reputation in the police department for being all business. His colleagues respected his skill but rarely invited him for after-shift beers, knowing he'd decline in favor of extra training with his partner. That partner was Max, a 4-year-old German shepherd with intelligent amber eyes and a coat that gleamed like polished mahogany under the station's fluorescent lights. Max had come to the department as a rambunctious 18-month-old, already showing exceptional aptitude for tracking and suspect apprehension. Had been assigned to him after his previous K-9 partner, Duke, retired due to arthritis. The transition hadn't been easy. Duke had been with for 7 years, and the officer wasn't keen on starting over with a young, energetic dog that still chewed boots when bored. "This isn't going to work," had told K-9 Unit Supervisor Sergeant Maria after their first week together. "The dog's too soft." Had merely raised an eyebrow. "Give it time, this one's different." Different was right. Where Duke had been all business, mirroring's own no-nonsense approach, Max displayed an unexpected gentleness that initially frustrated the veteran officer. During building searches, Max would pause to check on nervous rookies. At crime scenes, he would position himself between witnesses and the chaos, as if providing a buffer. Most perplexing, too, was Max's behavior at community events. While other police dogs maintained alert postures, Max gravitated toward children who showed signs of distress, resting his head on their laps until tears subsided. "He's too sensitive for police work," complained during a training session, watching as Max abandoned a tracking exercise to nudge a fallen child on a nearby playground. K-9 trainer disagreed. "You're looking at it all wrong, James. Max's empathy doesn't make him a worse police dog, it makes him a more versatile one. His detection skills are off the charts and he's passed every apprehension test, but he's got something special the others don't." Remained skeptical until the elementary incident, responding to reports of an armed man near school grounds, and Max had been first on scene. As they secured the perimeter, a kindergarten class caught in the open during recess froze in terror at the sight of a police officer with a tactical weapon and a large dog. Before could radio for instructions, Max broke protocol, lying down flat, his posture completely non-threatening. The children, rather than panicking, had been calmed by the dog's behavior, allowing their teacher to quickly herd them to safety while continued his search. "Your dog just prevented what could have been mass hysteria," Chief told him afterward. 25-year-olds kept calm because of Max, ever considered he might have uses beyond catching bad guys. 3 months later, when the department received a federal grant to establish a courthouse support animal program, Chief approached directly. "This is volunteer only," the chief clarified, sliding a brochure across his desk. "But I've been watching you and Max. He's got a gift, and there are kids who need that gift." Had scoffed. "With all due respect, sir, we're not social workers. Max is trained for police work, not babysitting traumatized kids." "And that training cost the department nearly $30,000, Chief replied evenly. Imagine the return on investment if he could serve multiple purposes. Reluctantly, agreed to a 6-week training program at the Regional Justice Center. There, Max learned to remain calm during court proceedings, to provide silent comfort to witnesses, and to recognize signs of anxiety in children. Meanwhile, was taught how to present Max to vulnerable witnesses and how to position himself in courtrooms to minimize disruption. "He's a natural," the program coordinator told after Max aced his final evaluation. "One of the best I've seen, actually. He knows who needs him before they do." Shrugged off the praise, but privately, he'd begun to see changes in himself as well. Working with traumatized children had softened something in him, reawakening memories of why he'd become an officer in the first place, not just to catch criminals, but to protect the vulnerable. He found himself lingering after training sessions, listening to child psychologists explain trauma responses, asking questions about how best to approach frightened kids. "He's better with children than I am," admitted to Captain Lawrence, unaware that this self-deprecating comment would soon be relayed to the district attorney's office, setting in motion events that would change multiple lives forever. By the time the Sanders case came to the department's attention, Max had already assisted in 3 preliminary hearings, helping children remain calm enough to testify about accidents they had witnessed. But he had yet to work with a completely nonverbal child, a trauma case as severe as Lily Sanders. When Detective mentioned the possibility, his initial reaction was doubt. "The girl hasn't spoken in weeks," he argued during the case briefing. "What's Max supposed to do, get her to talk to him?" "Not exactly," replied. "But if she feels safe enough with Max, she might remember she can speak at all, and right now that's all we're hoping for." Left the meeting unconvinced, but found himself researching selective mutism that evening, Max's head heavy on his knee as he scrolled through medical journals on his laptop. The dog's presence a steadying force he'd come to rely on without fully acknowledging it. Little did he know that across town, a sleepless mother was reaching the end of her rope, desperate for anything that might bring back her daughter's voice. Even a police dog with extraordinary empathy, and the reluctant officer who was only beginning to understand his partner's remarkable gift. Jennifer Sanders had tried everything: child psychologists, play therapy, even hypnosis. Nothing broke through Lily's silence. 6 weeks had passed since the break-in, and the Sanders household had settled into a heartbreaking routine. Mark would leave for work at his accounting firm, his goodbye kisses met with Lily's vacant stare. Jennifer would attempt to engage their daughter in once-beloved activities: finger painting, building block towers, watching animated movies about princesses, only to face the same hollow response. Lily would participate mechanically, her movements sluggish, her eyes never lighting up with the spark of joy that had once defined her. The breaking point came on a Wednesday afternoon. Jennifer had been folding laundry, half listening to the child psychologist's voicemail suggesting yet another specialist they could consult. Through the window, she watched Lily sitting motionless on her swing set, the breeze pushing her gently back and forth. The little girl hadn't even attempted to pump her legs. "That's it," Jennifer whispered, dropping a half-folded towel. She knelt before her daughter, meeting those empty eyes. "We're going to the park, the one with the duck pond and the big slide. We need—" Her voice cracked. "We both need some fresh air." 40 minutes later, Jennifer parked their blue minivan at Riverside Park, a sprawling green space at the center of town where Lily had once chased squirrels and begged for ice cream from the seasonal vendor. Today, the park was unusually busy. A small crowd had gathered near the central pavilion, where blue and white balloons bobbed in the early summer breeze. "Look, Lily, something special is happening," Jennifer said, more to fill the silence than anything else. She no longer expected responses. As they approached, Jennifer realized it was a police department community outreach event. Officers in uniform stood at various stations, demonstrating equipment, handing out junior police badges to excited children, and explaining how different units functioned. In pre-trauma days, Lily would have been tugging at her hand, eager to see everything. Today, she simply clutched her stuffed elephant Blue and followed her mother's gentle guidance. They skirted the edges of the crowd, Jennifer avoiding the noise and commotion that now frightened her daughter. They were about to head toward the quieter duck pond when a collective "ooh" rose from the gathering. Jennifer paused, curious despite herself. Officer James was demonstrating Max's tracking abilities to a school group. The German Shepherd had just successfully found a hidden item in record time, earning applause from the crowd. Stood tall, his posture military straight, his expression serious even as he rewarded his partner with a quick scratch behind the ears. "Good boy, Max," he said, his voice carrying across the lawn. "Now, who wants to see how police dogs help officers apprehend suspects safely?" Hands shot up around him, children jumping with excitement. Selected a young volunteer, instructing the boy to wear a protective sleeve and pretend to run away. On command, Max chased and caught the suspect, holding firmly but not biting down, demonstrating perfect restraint. Jennifer watched with mild interest, her mind already calculating how long they should stay before Lily's inevitable shutdown in the busy environment. She glanced down to check on her daughter, and froze. Lily had stepped forward, her body leaning slightly toward the demonstration. For the first time in weeks, her eyes were focused, tracking Max's every movement as the dog returned to side. Her knuckles were no longer white around Blue's worn trunk. The stuffed elephant dangled loosely from her fingers. Afraid to break the spell, Jennifer remained motionless, holding her breath. As instructed Max to perform a series of agility exercises, jumping over benches, weaving between cones, Lily took another half-step forward. When the dog barked once in response to a hand signal, Jennifer saw something extraordinary. The faintest twitch at the corner of Lily's mouth, not quite a smile, but the closest thing to animation her face had shown since that terrible Tuesday. The demonstration concluded with allowing children to approach Max one at a time, showing them the proper way to pet a working dog. Lily's gaze never wavered, though she made no move to join the line of eager kids. "Would you like to meet him?" Jennifer whispered, hardly daring to hope. Lily didn't nod, but she didn't shake her head either. Taking this as a potentially positive sign, Jennifer approached a female officer standing nearby. "Excuse me," she began hesitantly, "that dog, is he friendly with children?" Officer Sarah smiled. "Max, he's our star when it comes to kids. Officer acts tough, but that dog has turned him into a softie." She studied Jennifer's face, her expression turning more professional as she noted the dark circles under her eyes. "Is everything okay, ma'am?" Before Jennifer could respond, his radio crackled with a code she needed to acknowledge. "Sorry, I need to take this. If you want to meet Max, just wait until the crowd thins out a bit. Always stays late to answer questions." Jennifer thanked her and retreated to a bench with Lily, watching as the demonstration concluded and families gradually dispersed toward other activities. Her mind raced with possibilities and doubts. Was she reading too much into Lily's reaction? Was she so desperate for progress that she was imagining interest where there was none? But as the crowd thinned and Officer began packing up his demonstration materials, Lily did something she hadn't done in weeks. She tugged at her mother's sleeve, then pointed toward Max. Jennifer's heart hammered in her chest. "You want to go see the dog?" she asked, keeping her voice casual despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. Lily gave the slightest nod, almost imperceptible but definitively intentional. They approached slowly, Jennifer noting how stern expression softened when he noticed Lily half hiding behind her legs. Max, however, needed no introduction. The German Shepherd sat perfectly still, his intelligent eyes fixed on Lily with what Jennifer could only describe as understanding. "He's beautiful," Jennifer offered as an opening. "My daughter seems very interested in him." Nodded, professional but not unfriendly. Max has that effect on kids. He's a working police dog, but he's also part of our new community outreach program." As they spoke, Max remained focused on Lily, who had inched slightly closer, still clutching Blue. "She can pet him if she wants," said, noticing the child's hesitant approach. "He's extremely gentle." Jennifer knelt beside Lily. "Would you like to pet the police dog, sweetheart?" What happened next would forever be etched in Jennifer's memory. Lily extended Blue toward Max, an offering of her most precious possession. The dog gently sniffed the stuffed elephant, then lowered his head, as if in deference to its importance. Lily's hand, still holding Blue, brushed against Max's fur. Observed the interaction with interest. "Has your daughter always been this quiet?" he asked, his tone neutral but his eyes assessing. That question broke something open in Jennifer, weeks of fear, exhaustion, and heartache spilling out as she explained Lily's situation through tears she could no longer hold back. She told this stranger everything: the break-in, Lily's trauma, her subsequent silence, the upcoming hearing, their desperation for any sign of progress. Listened without interruption, his expression softening further as Jennifer concluded, "This is the first time she's shown interest in anything, anyone, since it happened." Meanwhile, Lily had settled cross-legged on the grass beside Max, who remained perfectly still, allowing her to stroke his ear with the touch. "I've seen something like this before," finally said. "Not exactly the same, but—" He hesitated, seeming to weigh his next words carefully. "Max is being trained as a courthouse therapy dog, for children who need to testify but are frightened or traumatized." Hope flickered in Jennifer's chest. "Do you think he could help Lily?" "Didn't make promises. I don't know, but I've seen Max do things I wouldn't have believed possible." He reached into his pocket, extracting a business card. "Call me tomorrow. I'll speak with my supervisor and the program coordinator." That evening, Jennifer made a desperate phone call to the police department. "I think your dog might be able to help my daughter." 3 times a week, officer brought Max to the Sanders home. The first visit had been arranged with clinical precision. Dr. Winters, Lily's psychologist, present to monitor the child's reactions. Detective there to assess any potential breakthrough relevant to the case. Himself uncomfortable in the tidy suburban living room with its family photos and children's artwork taped to the refrigerator. Max, however, showed no such discomfort, settling calmly on the carpet as if he'd always belonged there. Initially, Lily kept her distance, watching from behind furniture. She positioned herself behind an armchair, peering around its edge with wary eyes, clutching Blue to her chest. Had explained to the Sanders that he wouldn't force any interaction. "The important thing is that she doesn't feel pressured," he said, keeping his voice low and steady. "Max will take his cues from her." Indeed, the German Shepherd seemed to understand the delicacy of the situation. Unlike his usual alert posture during police work, Max lay with his head on his paws, occasionally glancing at Lily but never staring directly at her, a non-threatening posture that Dr. Winters noted with approval. "He's making himself smaller," she observed. "Less intimidating. That's exactly what she needs right now." The first session lasted 30 minutes, with Lily never venturing beyond her hiding place. Left feeling uncertain, but Dr. Winters assured him there had been subtle positive signs. Lily's breathing had remained steady. She hadn't retreated completely from the room, and most importantly, she had watched Max the entire time. "She's assessing whether he's safe," Winters explained. "It's actually a healthy response given what she's been through." By the second visit, Lily had chosen a closer vantage point, sitting on the bottom stair of the staircase, still elevated but within the same room. By the third visit, she sat cross-legged on the floor while Max lay nearby, though she maintained a careful 6 feet of distance between them. Jennifer watched these sessions with bated breath, hopping but afraid to hope too much. On day 7, during their 4th visit, the breakthrough came. Had brought a new item, a soft brush specifically designed for a dog's coat. "Max needs his weekly grooming," he explained casually, beginning to brush the dog's gleaming fur. "It keeps him healthy and comfortable." Lily edged closer, her eyes fixed on the rhythmic movement of the brush. After several minutes, set the brush down between himself and Lily, then pretended to check his phone messages. The adults held their collective breath as Lily inched forward on her knees, reached out, and touched the brush handle. Without looking directly at her, said softly, "You can help if you'd like. Max enjoys being brushed." For a long moment, Lily remained frozen, her hand on the brush. Then, with painstaking slowness, she picked it up and moved closer to Max. When the brush finally made contact with the dog's fur, Jennifer had to turn away to hide her tears of relief. Subject demonstrates decreasing anxiety in K9's presence, Dr. Winters noted in her session report that evening. First voluntary approach to the animal, significant progress. By day 12, Lily slept with a photo of Max under her pillow. A laminated service card had given her that showed Max in his official police vest. The nightmares that had plagued her since the break-in didn't disappear, but their frequency decreased. When they did occur, Jennifer would show her the card, reminding her that Max was helping keep their family safe. 2 weeks into their sessions, decided to try something new. After consulting with Dr. Winters, he brought Max's training equipment, specifically the hand signals used to direct the dog during police work. "I thought Lily might like to learn how Max follows commands," he explained to Jennifer. "It gives children a sense of control, which is often what they've lost during trauma." That afternoon demonstrated a simple hand signal, palm flat, lowering toward the ground, that commanded Max to sit. The dog responded instantly, his training impeccable. Then invited Lily to try, guiding her small hand through the motion when she hesitated. When Max sat in response to her signal, something remarkable happened. Lily's face brightened momentarily, her eyes widening with a flash of the animation they had once held constantly. "Again?" asked gently. Lily nodded, her most direct communication yet, and repeated the hand signal without assistance. Max again responded perfectly, earning a nearly invisible smile from the child. By the end of that session, Lily had mastered 3 commands: sit, down, and paw. Dr. Winters observed the entire interaction with growing excitement. "This is exactly what we needed," she told afterward, while Lily showed her mother how to signal down to an obliging Max. "She's experiencing success, control, and positive interaction all at once. It's addressing multiple aspects of her trauma simultaneously." Who had initially viewed these sessions as a professional obligation rather than therapeutic intervention, found himself increasingly invested in Lily's progress. The child's silent determination reminded him of his younger sister, who had struggled with selective mutism following their parents' bitter divorce decades earlier. "How did your sister eventually start speaking again?" Jennifer asked when shared this personal connection during their 6th session. "Time and patience," he answered honestly, "and a school counselor who never pushed her but always made it clear he was ready to listen whenever she was ready to talk." By day 18, their sessions had developed a comfortable routine. Would arrive with Max, Lily would greet the dog with a hand signal command, then they would spend time either brushing Max, practicing new commands, or simply sitting together while explained aspects of K9 police work that he thought might interest her. "Max can find people who are lost," he told her during one session, noticing how her eyes widened with interest. "His nose is so powerful he can follow someone's scent trail even days after they've been somewhere." Though Lily still hadn't spoken, her nonverbal communication had expanded significantly. She nodded, shook her head, pointed, and occasionally even tugged at sleeve when she wanted his attention. With Max, her physical affection grew more confident, scratching behind his ears, lying with her head against his side while they listened to stories, even giggling silently when Max licked her hand. "She's forming an attachment," Dr. Winters noted in her weekly report to the district attorney. The consistent, non-threatening presence of the animal is rebuilding her sense of safety. But the question remained, would this progress translate to the courtroom? Could Lily's growing comfort with Max help her find her voice in time for the preliminary hearing, now just 2 weeks away? District Attorney Caroline visited during their 9th session, observing from the kitchen as Lily demonstrated her full repertoire of hand signals, directing Max through a series of commands with growing confidence. "It's remarkable," whispered to Jennifer. "She's clearly engaged and responsive." "But she still hasn't spoken," Jennifer replied, the worry evident in her voice. "Not a single word in almost 6 weeks." Watched as Lily rewarded Max with a gentle stroke along his back, her face solemn but peaceful. "There's more than one way to communicate," she said thoughtfully. "Perhaps we've been approaching this the wrong way." After the session concluded, proposed her controversial idea, bringing Max to the preliminary hearing to help Lily feel safe enough to communicate, whether verbally or through other means. "We don't necessarily need her to speak," she explained to the Sanders, "and if she can identify the suspect through non-verbal means, that might be enough to proceed to trial." Who had initially been skeptical of Max's therapeutic potential, found himself advocating strongly for the plan. "Max has a calming effect on her that nothing else has achieved," he argued, "and he's already certified for courtroom presence. There's legal precedent for support animals in cases involving child witnesses." As they discussed logistics, no one noticed Lily in the hallway, listening intently, her hand resting on the photograph of Max she carried everywhere. For the first time since the break-in, her eyes held something besides fear, determination. The day before the hearing, Officer walked Max through the empty courtroom, familiarizing him with the space and creating a comfortable spot near the witness stand. County Courthouse stood as a testament to small-town grandeur, its marble columns and polished wooden benches harkening back to a time when civic architecture was meant to inspire awe. Who had in countless cases over his career, the building was familiar territory. To Max, it represented a new environment that needed to be thoroughly investigated, his sensitive nose cataloging the scents of lemon polish, old books, and the lingering perfume of the day's earlier visitors. "This is where we'll be tomorrow, buddy," murmured, watching Max explore the perimeter of the room. "Big day for everyone." District Attorney Caroline stood in the doorway, her slim briefcase tucked under one arm, observing the man and dog with a mixture of hope and apprehension. At 46, had prosecuted everything from petty theft to homicide during her 15-year career with the DA's office. Cases involving children always affected her most deeply, perhaps because of her own inability to have children after battling ovarian cancer in her 30s. "How's our star witness doing?" she asked, stepping into the courtroom. Straightened from where he'd been arranging a small blue mat, the same color as Lily's beloved elephant, beside the witness stand. "Max is ready," he replied. "He's been through the certification program twice now, and he's worked 3 previous hearings. None with a child as young as Lily, but—" "I meant Lily," clarified gently, "though I'm glad to hear Max is prepared." His expression sobered. "Dr. Winters visited her this morning. Says she's showing signs of anticipatory anxiety, not sleeping well, not eating much. But she's still responding to therapy exercises, still engaged with her parents. That's something." Nodded, moving toward the witness stand and running her hand along its polished wooden railing. "We've taken every precaution. Judge Thornton has agreed to a modified hearing format. The defendant will be present but seated at the far side of the courtroom. The gallery will be cleared except for essential personnel," she glanced at. "And I've arranged for Lily to visit the courtroom this afternoon, before the defense team arrives for their own preparations." The familiarization visit had been Dr. Winters' suggestion, allowing Lily to see the courtroom without the pressure of the actual hearing, to practice walking to the witness stand with her parents, to understand where Max would be positioned. The hope was that removing the element of environmental uncertainty might reduce her anxiety the following day. "I'll have Max ready at 3, confirmed, checking his watch. "What's the latest on the defense's motion?" Sighed heavily. Martin filed his objection to Max's presence first thing this morning, claims it will prejudice the jury by creating sympathy for the witness. "There won't even be a jury at the preliminary hearing," pointed out, his frustration evident. "Exactly what I argued in my response." Settled onto one of the courtroom benches, looking suddenly tired. But is thorough, I'll give him that. He cited 3 precedent cases where therapy dogs were excluded during pre-trial proceedings. Felt a knot forming in his stomach. The Sanders case had become personal to him in a way few cases ever had. The thought of Lily facing the courtroom, facing her alleged attacker, without Max's calming presence seemed cruel. And Judge Thornton. "She's reviewing both motions this morning. We should have her decision before Lily's visit." Checked her phone, scrolling through emails with a frown. Also submitted a motion to have Lily evaluated by the defense's own child psychologist. "I've objected, of course, on grounds that it would further traumatize the child." Muttered something under his breath, earning a sympathetic look from. "I know," she said, "is just doing his job. Every defendant deserves a vigorous defense." "Some more than others," replied darkly. The afternoon brought a mixed forecast, literally and figuratively. Dark clouds gathered outside the courthouse windows, promising rain, while inside, Judge Thornton issued her ruling on the defense motions. "She's allowing Max," reported, meeting at the courthouse entrance where he waited with Lily and her parents. "But with conditions. Max must remain stationary beside the witness stand. You must stay at least 6 feet away from Lily while she testifies, and there can be no visible rewards or treats given to the dog during testimony." Mark Sanders, who had taken the afternoon off from work for the familiarization visit, nodded with visible relief. "That's good news, right? The important thing is that Max can be there for Lily." Jennifer looked less certain, one hand protectively on Lily's shoulder. The child wore a blue dress with white collar, her special occasion outfit, and clutched both Blue the elephant and Max's photograph. Her eyes darted nervously around the imposing courthouse lobby with its high ceilings and echoing acoustics. "Let's head inside," suggested gently. "The courtroom is ready for Lily's visit." As they walked the long corridor toward CourtroomSays, observed Lily's body language. Her shoulders were hunched, her steps small and hesitant. But when Max came into view, waiting patiently outside the courtroom doors, saw an immediate change. Her posture straightened slightly, her pace quickened, and her eyes fixed on the dog with unmistakable recognition. Max, for his part, maintained his professional demeanor, though his tail wagged once, a brief acknowledgement that recognized as the dog's way of greeting someone he considered part of his pack. "Remember," Dr. Winters had coached the Sanders, "the purpose of this visit is simply to make the space familiar. Don't pressure Lily to practice testifying or answering questions. Just let her become comfortable with the physical environment." For 30 minutes, Lily explored the courtroom at her own pace, always with Max walking calmly beside her. Explained each area in child-friendly terms. "This is where the judge sits. She's like a referee who makes sure everyone follows the rules. And this is called the witness stand. It's a special place where people tell what they know." Demonstrated where he and Max would be positioned during the hearing, showing Lily how Max would lie on his special blue mat next to where she would sit. Jennifer practiced walking Lily to the witness stand, while Mark took photos on his phone, not of Lily, whose anxiety still showed in her tight grip on Blue, but of the courtroom itself. "We'll look at these tonight," he explained to reinforce the familiarity before tomorrow. As they were preparing to leave, Lily did something unexpected. She tugged at sleeve, her now familiar way of requesting attention, then pointed at the defendant's table with a questioning expression. Exchanged a glance with, who nodded slightly. "That's where Mr. Morin will sit tomorrow," explained honestly, kneeling to Lily's level. "But he'll be way over there, and Max will be right beside you. Remember how we practiced the stay close command. Max will stay right with you the whole time." Lily studied the empty chair, her expression unreadable, then turned back to Max, placing one small hand on his neck. The dog remained perfectly still, his training impeccable, but noticed his eyes, alert, watchful, protective. "She's processing," Dr. Winters murmured to Jennifer. "This is actually healthy, confronting the anxiety in a controlled environment." As they left the courthouse, the skis finally opened, rain falling in sheets across the parking lot. Watched the Sanders family hurry to their car, Mark holding an umbrella over Lily while Jennifer started the engine. The child glanced back once, her eyes finding Max in the courthouse doorway. That evening, Judge Thornton called an emergency conference with both legal teams. Martin, Tyler Morin's defense attorney, had filed a last-minute motion arguing that since this was only a preliminary hearing to determine if there was enough evidence to proceed to trial, Max's presence would create an undue bias in the proceedings. "My client has rights too, Your Honor," argued, his silver hair and tailored suit projecting authority. "This hearing should focus solely on the evidence, not be influenced by emotional appeals." Countered forcefully, citing research on childhood trauma and testimony. "The therapy dog isn't a prop, Your Honor. It's an evidence-based intervention to help a traumatized child communicate critical information." Judge Thornton, a grandmother of 4 with 22 years on the bench, considered both arguments before issuing her ruling. Since this is only a preliminary hearing to determine if there is enough evidence to proceed to trial, Max would be allowed as support for the child witness. The decision made headlines in the Gazette's evening edition. "Therapy dog approved for child witness in Sanders break-in case." Unknown to the legal teams or the Sanders family, Tyler Morin read this headline in his cell, his expression darkening with each word. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Lily entered, clutching her mother's hand and a small stuffed animal. The morning had begun with rain, a steady downpour that drummed against the Sanders roof as Jennifer helped Lily into the blue dress they had carefully selected and laid out the night before. Mark made pancakes shaped like elephants, a special tradition reserved for birthdays and important occasions, though Lily only managed a few small bites, her eyes constantly darting to the window whenever car headlights swept across the living room. "Remember what Dr. Winters said," Jennifer had whispered to Mark as they loaded into the car. "Today is about progress, not perfection. Even if she just sits there, even if she doesn't communicate at all, we're still moving forward." Mark had nodded, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "I know, I just hate that she has to go through this at all." Now, standing in the courthouse lobby 15 minutes before the scheduled hearing, Jennifer could feel Lily's small hand trembling within her own. The child's other arm clutched Blue the elephant tightly against her chest, the stuffed animal serving as both comfort object and shield against the imposing surroundings. Despite yesterday's familiarization visit, the courthouse looked different today. Busier, louder, filled with strangers in suits hurrying past with briefcases and stern expressions. District Attorney Caroline approached, her professional demeanor softening as she knelt to Lily's eye level. "Good morning, Lily. You look very pretty in your blue dress. Do you remember me from yesterday? I'm Ms." Lily didn't respond but maintained eye contact, a small victory that acknowledged with a warm smile. "We're going to go into the same room we visited yesterday," continued, her voice gentle but not condescending. "Judge Thornton will be there, the lady in the black robe I told you about. She's very nice and she's looking forward to meeting you." She glanced up at Jennifer and Mark. "Officer and Max are already inside, getting settled." At the mention of Max, Lily's posture changed subtly. Her shoulders lowered slightly, her breathing steadied. Jennifer exchanged a hopeful look with Mark, who gave an encouraging nod. "Are we ready?" asked, standing and smoothing her charcoal gray skirt. As ready as we'll ever be, Mark replied. Detective Maria joined them in the corridor, her presence both professional and reassuring. The defendant has just been brought in through the secure entrance, she informed quietly. He's with his attorney in the courtroom now. Nodded, thank you, detective, and the seating arrangement. As ordered by Judge Thornton, the defendant is positioned at the far side of the defense table, maximum distance from the witness stand. The gallery has been cleared except for essential personnel and the Sanders family representative. She glanced at Mark, who would be sitting in the gallery while Jennifer accompanied Lily to the witness stand as her support person. The double doors to Courtroom C loomed ahead, their polished oak surface reflecting the overhead lights. Jennifer felt Lily hesitate, her small body tensing beside her. "It's okay, sweetheart," Jennifer murmured. "Remember, Max is waiting for you inside." The courtroom fell silent as they entered. Judge Thornton, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun beneath her judicial robe, watched from the bench with an expression of composed neutrality. Court reporter Melissa sat ready at her stenotype machine, fingers poised to record every word. Bailiff Robert stood at attention near the judge's bench, his presence a reminder of the court's authority. And there at the defense table sat Tyler Morin. Even in the required court attire, a button-down shirt and slacks provided by his attorney to replace his jail jumpsuit, Morin maintained an air of defiance. The snake tattoo on his neck peeked above his collar, its scaled coils visible despite efforts to conceal it. His attorney, Martin, leaned close, whispering last-minute instructions, but Morin's attention had fixed on Lily the moment she entered. Jennifer felt her daughter freeze, a small gasp escaping her lips as she recognized the man from their home, from her nightmares. Lily's hand tightened painfully around Jennifer's fingers, her body beginning to tremble. "Eyes forward, sweetheart," Jennifer whispered, fighting her own surge of anger and fear at seeing the man who had violated their home, their safety, their lives. "Look straight ahead." But Lily seemed unable to move, her feet rooted to the carpet, her breath coming in quick, shallow pants that Jennifer recognized as the beginning of a panic response. Dr. Winters had warned them this might happen, that despite all preparation, the actual sight of her attacker might trigger Lily's trauma response. And then from the corner near the witness stand came a soft sound, not quite a whine, not quite a bark, but a gentle vocalization that cut through the courtroom silence. Officer and Max waited quietly in a corner. Max, wearing his official police therapy dog vest, navy blue with patches indicating his certification and training, sat perfectly at attention beside his handler. The German shepherd's ears perked forward as Lily entered, his intelligent eyes finding her immediately. At the first sign of Lily's distress, Max had made the sound, a communication that had never heard from the dog in a courtroom setting before. The officer raised an eyebrow but didn't correct his partner, understanding that Max had assessed the situation and responded accordingly. Lily's head turned toward the sound, her eyes widening as she spotted Max. For a suspended moment, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath as the child and dog regarded each other across the distance. "Counsel and witnesses will approach the bench," Judge Thornton directed, her voice firm but not unkind. Gently guided Jennifer and Lily forward, while reluctantly left his client to join them. Remained in place with Max, as per the court's instructions regarding the therapy dog's positioning. "Miss Sanders," Judge Thornton addressed Lily directly, her tone softening. "My name is Judge Thornton. Do you remember what Ms. told you about my job?" Lily didn't respond verbally, but her gaze shifted from Max to the judge, an acknowledgement that she was listening. "I'm here to make sure everyone follows the rules and that we find out what really happened," the judge continued. "I understand that Officer's dog, Max, is here to help you feel comfortable. Would you like Max to come sit beside you while you answer some questions?" At this, Lily gave a small, definitive nod, her first direct response since entering the courtroom. Judge Thornton smiled briefly, then returned to her professional demeanor. The court acknowledges the witness's non-verbal communication. Officer, please bring Max to the designated position beside the witness stand. Gave a short hand signal, and Max stood, walking with measured steps to the blue mat positioned beside the witness box. The dog settled into a perfect downstay position, alert but calm, his eyes never leaving Lily. "Mister, I remind you of our agreement regarding the therapy animal's presence," Judge Thornton said, addressing the defense attorney's obvious displeasure. "You will have full opportunity to cross-examine within the parameters we've established." Nodded stiffly, "Yes, Your Honor." With the preliminaries addressed, guided Lily to the witness stand. Jennifer helped her onto the booster seat that had been provided, ensuring the child could see and be seen above the wooden railing. As protocol dictated, Jennifer then stepped back, taking a seat in the chair positioned just behind the witness stand. "The witness has been called to establish identification of the defendant and provide testimony regarding the events of May 14th, began, her voice taking on the formal cadence of court proceedings. Given the witness's age and documented trauma response, the court has approved modified questioning procedures. Judge Thornton nodded. "Proceed, Ms." Approached Lily with a gentle smile. "Lily, do you remember when I visited your house? We talked about telling the truth and how important that is in this room." Lily nodded slightly, her eyes darting between Max and, briefly, Tyler Morin, who sat watching with an expression that shifted between boredom and calculation. "Is Max your friend?" asked, starting with a question designed to establish comfort and communication. Lily's gaze moved to the German Shepherd, who remained in perfect position beside her. For a moment, she simply looked at him, her small fingers clutching Blue the elephant. Then, something remarkable happened. She pointed directly at Max, her arm extending with purpose. Her lips parted, and in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "My friend." Those two simple words, the first Lily had spoken in 53 days, shattered the courtroom's formality. Jennifer gasped audibly, tears springing to her eyes. Mark, watching from the gallery, half rose from his seat in astonishment. Even Judge Thornton removed her glasses, blinking rapidly at this unexpected development. The court reporter's fingers paused momentarily over her stenotype machine before resuming their work, capturing the historic moment. The witness, "My friend." Those two simple words, "my friend," broke the dam. Tears sprang to Jennifer's eyes as Lily walked toward Max, sat beside him on the floor of the courtroom, and began to speak softly to the dog. The courtroom remained frozen in a tableau of collective shock. Judge Thornton, who had presided over thousands of cases during her 2 decades on the bench, removed her reading glasses, her judicial stoicism momentarily replaced by genuine emotion. Martin, the defense attorney, shifted uncomfortably in his expensive suit, sensing the dramatic shift in the hearing's dynamics. Court reporter Melissa's fingers hovered over her stenotype keys, uncertain whether to capture the whispered exchange between child and canine. Only Caroline, the district attorney who had gambled on this unconventional approach, maintained her professional composure, though the slight trembling of her hands as she adjusted her notes betrayed her own emotional response. "Your Honor," she said, her voice carefully modulated, "given this development, I request a brief recess to allow the witness to continue this communication in a more private setting." Judge Thornton nodded, finding her voice. "The court will recess for 30 minutes. Ms. Sanders, officer, please take Lily and Max to conference room B. Detective will escort you." She struck her gavel once, the sound reverberating through the still-stunned courtroom. "This court stands in recess." As the judge exited to her chambers, the spell broke. Jennifer rushed to Lily's side, kneeling beside her daughter, who continued to speak in a voice so soft that only Max, with his sensitive ears, could fully hear the words. Officer remained perfectly still, allowing the profound moment to unfold without interruption, though Jennifer noticed the slight moisture gathering in the corners of his eyes, the first crack in his professional demeanor she had witnessed. "Sweetheart," Jennifer whispered, her own voice choked with emotion, "you're talking." Lily looked up, her eyes for so long vacant and distant, now present and focused. "Max needed to know I was okay," she said simply, as if she hadn't spent nearly 2 months in complete silence. "He was worried." Detective approached gently, kneeling at a respectful distance. "Lily, would you and Max like to go to a quieter room? There's a special place where you can talk more comfortably." Lily considered this, then nodded, her hand still buried in Max's fur. "Can Officer come too? Max listens to him." "Of course," assured her, exchanging a significant look with, who gave a short nod of understanding. Conference Room B had been prepared in advance as a child-friendly interview space, a protocol established for juvenile witnesses that was rarely needed in small courthouse. A round table replaced the traditional rectangular conference table, comfortable chairs with booster options surrounded it, and a small selection of art supplies and fidget toys had been arranged on a side table. A recording system had been discreetly installed in the ceiling, standard procedure for child testimony that might later be challenged. As they entered, gave Max a hand signal, and the dog immediately settled on the carpet beside a chair clearly meant for Lily. The child, still clutching Blue the elephant in one hand, sat down and immediately resumed stroking Max's head with her other hand. "Lily," Jennifer began cautiously, hardly daring to hope this breakthrough would continue, "would you like some water or juice?" "Apple juice, please," Lily replied, her voice stronger now, though still bearing the slight rasp of disuse. "And Max needs water. He's been working hard." Smiled, the professional distance he'd maintained throughout their interactions finally dissolving. "You're right about that. Max is a very dedicated police dog." He pulled a collapsible water bowl from his pocket, part of Max's standard equipment, and filled it from a water bottle. While Max lapped contentedly, District Attorney entered the room, her expression both excited and cautious. She had removed her formal suit jacket, perhaps in an effort to create a less intimidating presence. "Hello again, Lily," she said warmly, taking a seat across from the child rather than looming over her. "You've surprised everyone today. How are you feeling?" Lily considered the question with a seriousness beyond her years. "Scared," she admitted finally. "But Max helps. He's brave, so I can be brave too." Nodded, maintaining the conversational tone. "That's exactly right. Being brave doesn't mean not feeling scared. It means doing important things even when you are scared." She glanced at Detective, who gave a subtle nod, confirmation that the recording system was active. "Lily, would you feel comfortable telling us what happened that day when someone came into your house?" Jennifer held her breath, prepared for Lily to retreat back into silence at the direct reference to her trauma. But her daughter surprised her once again. "The bad man broke our door," Lily said, her voice small but distinct. "Mommy was making soup. I heard a loud noise and then Mommy screamed." Leaned forward slightly. "What did you do when you heard that noise?" "I was in my room playing with Blue," Lily continued, holding up the stuffed elephant as evidence. "I got scared and hid in my closet. Blue told me to be very quiet." "That was very smart of you," and Blue affirmed. "What happened next?" Lily's hand tightened slightly in Max's fur, but the dog remained perfectly still, his presence a steady anchor as she navigated her difficult memories. "The bad man came upstairs. I could hear his boots. They were dirty and made mud on my carpet." Her brow furrowed in remembered indignation at this violation. "He came in my room and started opening my drawers. He took Mommy's jewelry box that she keeps on her dresser." Detective made a note. This aligned with Jennifer's statement about missing items, including a small antique jewelry box that had been in her bedroom, not Lily's. The child's account was filling in gaps in their timeline. "Could you see the bad man from where you were hiding?" asked gently. Lily nodded, her expression solemn. "Through the crack in my closet door. Blue wanted to look too, but I made him stay back so he'd be safe." "That was very brave of you to protect Blue," said. "Can you tell us what the bad man looked like?" This was the crucial question, the identification that could solidify their case against Tyler Morin. Jennifer watched her daughter intently, hardly breathing. "He had a snake on his neck," Lily said without hesitation. "A scary snake with its mouth open." She touched her own neck, indicating the location of Morin's distinctive tattoo, and his eyes were angry, very angry blue eyes. Nodded encouragingly. "Would you recognize this person if you saw him again?" Lily's response was immediate and certain. "He's here, in the big room with the tall chair where the lady sits." She looked at her mother. "The bad man was sitting at that table." A current of electricity seemed to run through the room. Lily had just positively identified Tyler Morin without prompting, without a photo lineup, and with specific details that matched the suspect perfectly. "Lily," continued carefully, "what happened after the bad man was in your room?" "He looked in my closet," Lily whispered, her voice dropping as the fear of that moment returned. "But he didn't open it all the way. He just grabbed some shoes from the floor and then his phone made a noise." She imitated a buzzing sound. "And he talked to someone. He said, 'I gotta go, cops are coming.' Then he went to my window and climbed out." She pointed to Max. "Like when Officer shows how Max jumps over things but not as good." Detective and exchanged glances. This new information about a phone call could lead to an accomplice, expanding their investigation beyond Morin himself. For the next 20 minutes, Lily continued to talk, with remarkable clarity for a 3-year-old, filling in details of her experience. How long she had stayed hidden in the closet, until a nice lady police officer found her. What she had heard while hiding, sirens, her mother crying, people calling her name, and how she had felt afterward, like the words got stuck in my throat. As the court-mandated recess neared its end, gently explained that they would need to return to the courtroom. "Will the bad man still be there?" Lily asked, sudden apprehension clouding her features. "Yes," answered honestly, following Dr. Winter's guidance about maintaining trust with traumatized children. "But Max will be with you the whole time, and the bad man cannot come near you or hurt you. There are police officers in the room making sure of that." Lily processed this information, her hand still resting on Max's back. "Can I tell the judge lady what I told you, about the snake and the dirty boots?" "That's exactly what we hope you can do," confirmed. "You're doing such an important job today, Lily. You're helping make sure the bad man can't hurt other families." When they returned to the courtroom, the atmosphere had transformed. Word had spread throughout the courthouse about the breakthrough, and Judge Thornton had been forced to station an additional bailiff at the courtroom door to prevent curious courthouse staff from finding excuses to enter. Tyler Morin sat rigid at the defense table, his earlier nonchalance replaced by visible tension. Martin leaned toward him, whispering urgently, clearly recalibrating his defense strategy in light of this unexpected development. As Lily re-entered, now walking with her head high rather than hunched in fear, all eyes turned toward her. She kept her gaze fixed on the witness stand where Max already waited on his blue mat, having been brought in through a side door by Officer. Judge Thornton called the court back to order, her voice gentler than before. "Miss Sanders, are you ready to continue?" Lily nodded, climbing onto the booster seat with newfound confidence. "Yes, Judge Lady," she replied, causing a ripple of suppressed smiles throughout the courtroom. "You may proceed, Ms." Judge Thornton directed. Approached the witness stand, maintaining a warm but professional demeanor. "Lily, during our recess, you shared some important information with us. With the court's permission, I'd like you to tell Judge Thornton what you saw on the day a man came into your home." And so Lily did, her small voice growing stronger with each detail she recounted. With remarkable clarity for a 3-year-old, She described the man who had broken into their home, identified Tyler Morin in a photo lineup, and explained how she had hidden in her closet during the robbery. When she finished her account, asked one final question. "Lily, do you see the man from your house in this courtroom today?" Without hesitation, Lily pointed directly at Tyler Morin. "That's him, the man with the snake on his neck." Preliminary hearing provided enough evidence for the case to proceed to trial, where Morin would eventually be convicted. 6 months after that fateful day in the courtroom, Tyler Morin stood before Judge Malcolm Richardson in a full criminal trial that lasted 9 days. The evidence against him proved overwhelming. Lily's testimony, recorded during the preliminary hearing, was played for the jury, along with forensic evidence linking Morin to the break-in, cell phone records revealing communications with a suspected accomplice, and the recovery of several stolen items from a pawn shop where Morin was captured on security footage. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts: breaking and entering, aggravated burglary, assault, and endangering a child. Judge Richardson, known for his tough sentencing, showed no leniency. "Mr. Morin, your actions didn't just violate a family's home. They stole a child's sense of safety and security. That is a theft more serious than any jewelry or valuables." He sentenced Morin to 15 years with no possibility of parole for at least 10, the maximum penalty allowable under state guidelines. But the real story was about healing. For the Sanders family, the journey forward began the moment Lily found her voice again. The night after the preliminary hearing, Jennifer and Mark sat on the edge of Lily's bed, watching in amazement as their daughter chattered about everything and nothing: the color of her bedroom walls, the taste of the ice cream they'd had to celebrate, the way Max's fur felt under her fingers. "It's like she's making up for lost time," Mark whispered to Jennifer as Lily finally drifted off to sleep, mid-sentence about whether police dogs enjoy birthday parties. "She is," Jennifer replied, tears glistening in her eyes, "and so are we." Dr. Winters continued working with Lily, though their sessions shifted from trauma recovery to resilience building. "What we're seeing is remarkable," she told the Sanders during a follow-up consultation. "Lily has developed what we call post-traumatic growth. She's not just returning to her pre-trauma state, but actually developing new strengths because of what she's been through." These strengths manifested in surprising ways. Lily, once shy around strangers, now approached children who seemed upset or alone at the playground. "They need a friend," she explained matter-of-factly when Jennifer asked about this new behavior. "Like Max was for me." The case received significant media attention, with the Gazette running a front-page story titled "K9 Hero Helps Child Find Her Voice." Larger outlets picked up the story, and soon Officer was fielding interview requests from state and national news organizations. The publicity highlighted the innovative courthouse therapy dog program, bringing attention to a practice that had been slowly gaining traction nationwide, but remained unknown to much of the public. 2 months after the preliminary hearing, Jennifer Sanders received a call from Parker, the mother of a 7-year-old boy in a neighboring county who had witnessed a violent crime and was now experiencing selective mutism similar to Lily's. "I read about your daughter and the police dog," explained, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm desperate to help my son. The prosecutors say they need his testimony, but he hasn't spoken since it happened." This call catalyzed something in Jennifer, who had been questioning her purpose since the break-in. A former marketing executive who had scaled back to part-time work after Lily's birth, she had been considering a complete career change. "I want to do something meaningful," she told Mark that night. "Something that actually helps families like us." The Sanders family established a foundation to support the expansion of courthouse therapy dog programs across the country. Jennifer left her marketing position to run Lily's Voice full-time, using her business acumen and newfound passion to secure funding, navigate bureaucratic hurdles, and advocate for legislative changes to formally recognize therapy animals in legal proceedings. Mark, an accountant by training, managed the foundation's finances and developed a sustainable funding model that combined private donations with targeted grant applications. Within 18 months, Lily's Voice had helped establish courthouse therapy dog programs in 12 counties across 3 states, trained over 30 handler dog teams, and provided support services to more than 100 children and vulnerable witnesses. Officer James and Max became unexpected celebrities in the world of law enforcement and victim advocacy. What began as a reluctant assignment transformed into a calling. The taciturn officer who had once viewed Max's gentleness as a potential weakness now spoke at police academies and K-9 training centers nationwide about the dual value of police dogs, both as tactical assets and healing presences. A good police dog can track a suspect through a forest at night, he would tell his audiences of officers and handlers. A great police dog can do that and then turn around and help a traumatized child feel safe enough to tell their story. And Max became certified trainers for police departments nationwide, teaching others how to use K-9 officers for dual purposes, law enforcement and emotional support. They developed a standardized protocol for introducing therapy dogs to traumatized children, drawing heavily from their experience with Lily. The Max method, as it became known in law enforcement circles, was eventually adopted by police departments in 27 states. Max received formal recognition for his role in the Sanders case. The American Kennel Club awarded him the Award for Canine Excellence in the law enforcement category, an honor typically reserved for dogs who apprehend dangerous criminals or discover crucial evidence. At the ceremony, appeared in his dress uniform, standing tall as a representative from the governor's office, placed a special medallion around Max's neck. In his brief acceptance speech, credited his partner, Max taught me that sometimes the bravest police work happens in quiet rooms with traumatized children, not just in dramatic pursuits. District Attorney Caroline, inspired by the success of the Sanders case, established a specialized victim services unit within her office focused specifically on supporting child witnesses. She hired a full-time victim advocate with training in childhood trauma and renovated an unused office into a child-friendly interview room, complete with comfortable furniture, art supplies, and a dedicated space for therapy dog visits. The innovations paid dividends almost immediately, with successful prosecution rates for cases involving child witnesses increasing by 32% in the first year. Dr. Winters published a peer-reviewed paper on Lily's case in the Journal of Child Psychology, bringing academic credibility to the emerging field of animal-assisted legal support. Her research sparked additional studies at universities across the country, many funded through grants from Lily's Voice, examining the neurobiological mechanisms by which therapy animals help traumatized children regulate their nervous systems enough to communicate effectively. And Lily, now attending kindergarten, had fully regained her voice and confidence. Her teacher, Ms. Abigail, marveled at the transformation from the silent, withdrawn child who had started the school year to the vibrant, often talkative student who now organized games at recess and volunteered first for show and tell. She has this remarkable empathy, Ms. told Jennifer during a parent-teacher conference. When other children are upset, Lily seems to know exactly what to do. Sometimes it's talking to them. Sometimes it's just sitting quietly beside them. On the one-year anniversary of the hearing, the Sanders family hosted a community picnic in Riverside Park, the same location where Lily had first encountered Max. The event served multiple purposes: a fundraiser for Lily's Voice, a celebration of the now expanded courthouse therapy dog program, and a thank you to the many people who had supported their family through the darkest period of their lives. Local businesses donated food, drinks, and entertainment. The police department set up demonstrations of various units, with the K-9 division, now expanded to include 3 therapy-trained dogs alongside the traditional patrol and detection canines, drawing the largest crowds. Officer, more comfortable with dogs than public speaking, nevertheless agreed to say a few words at Jennifer's request. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park, stood before the gathered crowd, families with children, police officers in and out of uniform, courthouse staff, therapists, and community members who had followed Lily's story through local media. "A year ago," he began awkwardly, clearing his throat, "Max and I were just doing our jobs. I didn't believe in therapy dogs. I thought police dogs were for tracking suspects and finding evidence, not," he gestured vaguely, "emotional stuff." Max knew better. This earned a ripple of appreciative laughter. He knew what Lily needed before any of us did. Dogs are smarter than people that way. Stepped back, visibly relieved to be done with his speech. Jennifer thanked him warmly, then introduced the guest of honor. Lily, now 4 years old and dressed in a blue sundress that matched Max's therapy vest, approached the microphone her father had adjusted to her height. Gone was the traumatized child who had hidden in closets and lost her words to fear. In her place stood a small but determined figure, her hair caught in the early evening breeze, her eyes clear and direct as they scanned the audience. "My name is Lily Sanders," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the park grounds. "When I was very scared, my friend Max helped me be brave. He showed me that sometimes words get stuck when bad things happen, but they can come unstuck with help." She reached down to pat Max, who sat perfectly at attention beside her. "Sometimes heroes have 4 paws," she concluded, the simple wisdom of her statement bringing everyone to tears once again. In that moment, as applause erupted and Max's tail wagged in quiet satisfaction, the trauma that had entered their lives through a shattered patio door began to recede into memory, not forgotten, but transformed into something else entirely. A story of healing, of connection, and of voices found when they were needed most.